Good afternoon, everyone. I want to first thank the Barbados Labour Party for giving me this opportunity to address you tonight. Sorry, the perils of being short. First, I want to mention to my St. George people, we won the battle, but we did not win the war. We overwhelmingly voted to remove an uncaring and unresponsive representative, only to have her returned as Minister of Labour. Now, if Sir Roy Trotman can call you the worst Minister of Labour ever, how can a right-thinking individual return you to that post? At a time when we need thoughtful, strong, intelligent leadership, we are left with a horrible show. Darth Vader #5 and the Resurrection, starring Ferndale Stewart, the Minister of Finance, Chris Sinclair, the Minister of Tourism, Mr. Richard Seeley, the Minister of Labour, Queen of TV, Esther Suku, and the Governor of the Central Bank. And in 6 years, they have brought us nothing short of shame, despair, poverty, destruction, and death to an economy. I can safely tell you why I proudly support and will continue to support Mr. Dwight Sutherland. And that is because of how I personally felt treated by Dr. Suku. And it is more because of the stark contrast between the two. See, where she gave you unresponsiveness and uncaringness, Mr. Sutherland looked at me. He and his wife came to my home. They held my hand, looked me in the face, and told me the truth, something foreign to today's government. He said to me, I cannot give you a job. I cannot wave a magic wand and sort your situation out. But you know what? I can give you advice. I can point you on a path. I can hold your hand through the darkness. And I'm ashamed to say it, but this government treats Barbadian people just like Esther Suku treated me. Uncaring, unresponsive, unfeeling. But you know what? I personally have chosen to take a stand. I personally have chosen that I will not sit back and allow myself to continue being fooled. See, tonight, I want to use this platform to address the plight of the young people. And I want to introduce you to a term. It's called an educated parole. See, that's what our young people have been reduced to. Those who have completed secondary school and gone out to work, or those of us who've gone on to UE, SJPP, BCC. We find ourselves with a solid education, with fresh minds, with creative ideas, with eager hands. But due to the mismanagement of this government, no work to be found, and not a word as to why. You see, our days are spent between looking for work and hanging with friends, between Facebook and Twitter and roaming. We are a generation of dejected, disillusioned, and disgruntled individuals. I myself spent 2 years in that state, doing whatever odd jobs or temporary work I could find. Ashamed that my single mother, who had done her best to put me through university, could not count upon me to scrounge up enough to help pay a single bill. That is the shame of my generation, and that is the legacy of this government. Education has always been the lifeblood of the Barbadian poor child. Children go to school and learn well. Otherwise, you can catch real hell. You see, that has been drilled into us from infancy to beyond. We have all been told that the promise of this country has been, if you do well in your education, if you keep to school, if you stay out of trouble, opportunities will open for you. Well, I'm here tonight to tell you, your young people are losing faith in that promise. We are losing hope that there is another way. I want to tell you that those of us who are still at university are planning our dropout. We're trying our best to get the best grades possible because we know in September we can't pay that tuition fee. No way, no how. And if you look towards getting a loan, how can many of them who are still at university, when their parents are in threat of being laid off, those of them in the public sector and in the private sector, many are taking a pay cut just to keep employed. Those of us in primary and secondary school, we're paying little attention. What's the point when down the road all we see are struggling and out of work with adults? How can you look at us and tell us things will get better? We will recover. When our government spends its days playing with light and shadow, telling you one half of a truth and a quarter of another, and only telling you it because they can no longer hide it in the dark. How can that be? How can on one hand, one step forward and tell us 3,000 of you must go in order to save us, and the other step forward and say, I am not cutting any jobs. Their left and right hands are beating against each other, working against their own best interests and the best interests of our people. But you see, I want the young in my country, in my community, to see the future I envision for us, the hope that I have for our future. I see private sector jobs coming back after being stamped out by stranglehold policies that made no sense, because investors understand that there is a woman at the helm who knows how both a society and an economy can work. I see the promise of education taking real meaning again, where our kids, my cousins, get excited about what they're going to be, not wondering if mommy can be able to put food on the table this week. I see our middle class growing because my generation will be able to lift ourselves out of poverty, out of the massive disarray of unemployment and the hopelessness of uncreative leaders who have no idea what they're doing but refuse to ask for help. I see a future where our economy is structured around we, the next generation, where our fresh ideas for businesses are nurtured, where our innovative concepts are met with encouragement and investment rather than ridicule and abandonment. In the future, I see the concept of a true creative economy, which isn't just based on entertainment, but which is based on designing games, using animation, having a worldwide economy where we can sit at home from the internet and stretch our hands forth to the world and say, we are here. We have concepts, we have a contribution to make. But you know what? This Barbados that I envision cannot happen if we continue to be suffocated. If we continue to let people who believe that their own ends are more important than the big picture, than this country. Instead, I want us to stand up and say, we will not be like lambs to the slaughter. We will not believe your lies. We will continue to defy. We will continue to speak out. We will continue to advocate for the rescue of the Barbadian way of life, for the Barbadian people. Tonight, I have to go, So I want to end on 2 points. One, I want to advocate for single mothers. No, single parents. Better yet, for all families in total. I know the struggle my mother went through, what she endured to raise and educate me through my degrees. I also know the pain and the shame of being unable to look her in her face and hand her a week's pay because I couldn't get one. I am not an economist, but poor people cannot always be asked to pay for piss poor management of governments. We cannot always be that. We cannot always be the first to be sent home. When will we start sending home those at the top who continue to show incompetency? For all those who've not had a good night's sleep since December. For those of us who, like my mother did, are fighting against the odds, I am asking, begging for mercy for those of us public and private sector who are just trying to do our best. Most of us have risen up and through, and those of you who have gone on to the heights, I ask you, do not forsake the poor in a futile attempt to follow these policies. And finally, I will ask one more thing of you tonight, just one. As you consider these looming topics of today, as you consider how best to cut through the other things and find the truth, find the way forward, I ask you to do not forget the young. We are your future because we will not forget you. We will remember the decisions that you have made. We will suffer for the indecisions that you take. We will either rise up someday to be worthwhile citizens as a result of the opportunities you give, or we will fall by the wayside. A generation forgotten, a generation in crisis. And that is all we ask at the end of the day. An opportunity to be heard, to be recognized, to be seen. I ask you not to forget us because we will never forget you. We will never forget those who fight on our behalf. Thank you and have a great night.